My girlfriend said, I need to focus on me, but I found her secret plans to meet him alone. I didn't mean to go through her stuff. I'm not the kind of person who goes snooping through her drawers or checking her phone. But when I came home early that day, early from the meeting I'd been dreading, the one I thought would take hours, and I saw her calendar open on the desk with a reminder marked Meet with Max, my heart sank. Max was the guy she'd told me about months ago. A coworker, someone she'd been working closely with on a project. She'd mentioned him in passing, like it was nothing. He's a great guy, she'd said. We get along so well. I feel like we think the same way. At the time, I didn't think anything of it. But that calendar entry, it wasn't just a name. It was a time, a date, and a note that read, Meet at 8 p.m. for drinks. Don't tell Jace. My chest tightened, the blood rushing to my ears. I couldn't even breathe for a second, let alone move. I stared at the words, waiting for the punchline that would make everything make sense, but none came. My thoughts were jumbled, incoherent, and every possible scenario played in my mind. Was she seeing him in secret? Was this more than just a friendship? Why the hell was it a secret? I needed to know more, so I picked up my phone, opened up her email inbox, and scrolled. I wasn't proud of it. Hell, I didn't even want to believe what I was doing, but my fingers moved almost on their own, fueled by this gut-wrenching need to understand. My stomach was in knots as I clicked on the thread that seemed to be the most recent. Subject, tonight's plans. I clicked it open, heart pounding as if it might explode from my chest. It wasn't even just the plans, it was the tone. It was intimate, flirty even. There was no way this was just work-related. Can't wait to see you tonight. Let's make it a fun one, okay? I've been thinking about this for days. She had said nothing to me about any of this. I sat there, shaking, feeling like the walls were closing in on me. The room was too small, too suffocating. Why would she hide this from me? Why wouldn't she tell me? I ran my hand through my hair, pacing the apartment, trying to make sense of it all. When she came home an hour later, the casual, chipper, hey babe, felt like a slap. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what I was supposed to feel or do. I just stood there, frozen in the kitchen, my mind still reeling from what I just found. She set her purse down on the counter, glanced at me, then frowned when she saw my expression. What's wrong? I wanted to ask her about it, about the calendar entry, about the email, about the lie, but I couldn't get the words out. The frustration, the betrayal, the confusion, all of it was locked in my throat. Instead, I just said, you tell me. What's going on with you and Max? Her face went pale. She froze, almost imperceptibly, and for a moment, I thought I might pass out. What do you mean? Her voice was too calm, too practiced. Don't lie to me. My voice came out sharper than I meant it to, but the words were there, and I needed her to hear them. You've been planning to meet him tonight. Alone. You've been hiding it from me, and I deserve to know why. For a second, she just stared at me, and I could see the wheels turning in her head, try to figure out what to say. Her lips parted like she was about to speak, but no sound came out. I watched her eyes flicker nervously, and then she dropped her gaze, not wanting to look at me. It was all the confirmation I needed. Tell me the truth. I was almost pleading, but I didn't care anymore. This wasn't some passing suspicion or a momentary doubt. This was real. She was hiding something big, and I needed to know what. She sighed, her shoulders slumping as if she was finally giving in. Okay, she said, her voice barely audible. She took a step back, running her hand through her hair, clearly trying to figure out how to say this without completely shattering me. I've been thinking about us, about everything lately. And I've been confused. Confused about what? I asked, trying to keep the edge out of my voice, but failing. What does Max have to do with this? She looked up at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and something else I couldn't place. Max. He's someone I've been spending a lot of time with, yeah. And lately, I don't know, I've been feeling like I'm not really me anymore. Like I've lost touch with who I am. I told you I needed to focus on myself. And this is part of that. She swallowed hard, her gaze dropping to the floor again. It's not that I don't love you, Jace. It's just that I don't know if I'm in love with you anymore. I think I need to figure out what I really want. My mind went blank. The words she said, the way they cut through me, felt like someone had taken a knife to my chest. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to say something, anything, but I couldn't. She needed to figure things out? How long had she been thinking this? How long had she been lying to me? You're telling me this now? After this? I gestured to the calendar, the email I'd found. Everything that had made my heart stop. You've been hiding this from me, telling me everything was fine, and now you're saying you're confused? You're meeting him for drinks tonight while you're still with me? Are you serious? Her eyes welled up with tears, and for a second, I felt a twinge of sympathy. But it was fleeting. I was too hurt, too angry. I didn't want to hurt you, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know how to admit that I've been feeling disconnected from everything. I shook my head. This wasn't about her needing time to figure things out. This was about him, about how she had been secretly planning to meet with Max, about how she had been keeping her distance from me for weeks. This wasn't some vague, needing space situation. It was a betrayal, and deep down I knew that. I think you've already made up your mind, I said, my voice cold, my chest tight. I don't think you're confused anymore. I think you're just too afraid to admit what you really want. She opened her mouth like she was going to say something more, but the words wouldn't come. Her face crumpled as the first sob broke free, and I turned away, not wanting to see it. I don't know what to do anymore, she whispered, her voice strained. I thought this was what I wanted, but I'm lost, Jace. I'm so lost. I didn't know what to say. What could I say? She was lost, but I wasn't the one who had left. I wasn't the one who had been sneaking behind my back. I wasn't the one planning to meet him alone. Maybe you should go, I said, my voice quieter now, more resigned than I thought it would be. You need to figure things out. But you can't do that here. She nodded silently, wiping her eyes, and I felt that sick, sinking feeling again. She didn't even fight it. She didn't even argue. I'm sorry, Jace, she said, choking on the words. But I wasn't sure if she was sorry for me or for herself. And then, just like that, she grabbed her purse, turned, and walked out the door. And just like that, I was left standing in the apartment we had shared for the last 3 years, with nothing but silence and a gaping hole where everything used to be. Part 2. The door clicked shut behind her with a finality that made my heart drop. I stood there, motionless, for what felt like an eternity, staring at the place where she had just been. My hands were still shaking. My chest was tight, my throat dry, but the tears wouldn't come. Not yet. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room, leaving only this crushing emptiness in its place. I walked into the living room, pacing aimlessly. The silence was deafening, so I turned the TV on to fill it, but the sound was just a distant hum. Nothing felt real anymore. My mind kept replaying the same scene over and over. The way she'd said it, her voice so soft, so apologetic, like she was sorry for making me feel like this. But there was no apology that could fix what I was feeling. There was no apology that could fix the fact that the woman I loved had already checked out of our relationship, had already moved on in some way, and I was the last one to know. I wasn't angry at her anymore. That feeling had passed by the time she walked out the door. Now it was just sadness, a deep, suffocating sadness. I grabbed my phone and stared at it, knowing I should probably reach out to someone, my best friend, Mark, or my brother, Jason, but I couldn't bring myself to call. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to hear sympathy or advice right now. I just wanted the hurt to go away, and I knew that wouldn't happen if I had to explain it all over again. Instead, I pulled up her contact info. My thumb hovered over the text box. I knew I shouldn't reach out to her, not after everything she'd said. But part of me still wanted to hear her voice again. I just didn't know how to make sense of everything she had just dumped on me. We're not in love anymore. What did that even mean? Was it the truth? Was it just a way to cover up whatever was happening with Max? Maybe I wasn't supposed to ask these questions yet. Maybe I was supposed to let her figure it out in peace, but I couldn't. What now? I typed, then deleted the message. I sat there for a few minutes, staring at my phone like it was some kind of lifeline, like one text could change everything, but I knew it wouldn't. She had made her choice. And the worst part? I still didn't even know if I could blame her for it. The uncertainty gnawed at me. What was I supposed to do with us? With everything we had? I knew we had been distant for a while, but I thought it was just a phase. I thought we could work through it. But now? Now it felt like the foundation of everything we had built together was cracked beyond repair. She hadn't just checked out emotionally. She had already made plans to start a new chapter without me. I threw my phone onto the couch and stood up again, needing to move, needing to get away from the suffocating weight of this apartment that had once been home. The place where we made dinner together, where we stayed up late talking, where we built a life together. Everything felt so wrong now. I grabbed my jacket and left the apartment, the cool air outside cutting through me like a slap. I walked aimlessly down the street, not caring about the direction, just needing to go somewhere, anywhere that wasn't here. It wasn't until I reached a park nearby, a place we used to walk to when we needed some space to think, that I realized I was holding back tears. I sat on one of the benches, pulling my knees to my chest, and finally let myself feel the weight of it all. This wasn't just about Max. It wasn't even just about the fact that she was leaving me. It was about all the little things I had missed, all the signs I had ignored in the name of love. The way she'd stopped talking about her day in the evenings. The way she'd started working late more often or making excuses to go out with friends when I knew there wasn't anyone else. And then the guilt. Oh, the guilt I felt for not seeing it, for not catching on sooner. Maybe if I had, I could have stopped her from walking out the door. I pulled my phone out again and stared at it for a long time, debating whether or not to reach out to Mark. I knew I needed someone to talk to, but part of me didn't want to drag anyone else into this. This was my mess, I thought. But as I sat there, feeling like I was about to unravel, I realized I couldn't do it alone. I needed someone to hear me. So, I sent him a message. I need to talk. Can you meet up? He replied almost immediately. Of course. Where? You good? I sent him the address of a bar nearby, and within 30 minutes, I was sitting in a corner booth, nursing a beer, waiting for him to show up. The minutes felt like hours as I replayed every moment of the conversation with her, trying to figure out what had gone wrong. How could she go from saying, "I love you" every day to walking out on me like this? When Mark arrived, he could immediately tell something was wrong. He was the kind of guy who didn't need to ask questions to know when you were hurting. He just knew. He slid into the booth and looked at me. His face softened with concern. What happened, man? You look like you're about to implode. I stared at my beer for a second, unsure where to start. But then I let it all spill out. The conversation with her, what I found, how she was meeting Max. Mark listened without interruption, his face unreadable, but his eyes never leaving mine. When I finished, I leaned back, feeling like I just dumped a bucket of ice water on him. Dude, he started, rubbing the back of his neck. That's heavy. I'm sorry, man. He paused, taking a sip of his drink before continuing. Look, I don't know what's going on with her and Max, but the one thing I do know is that you don't deserve this. You didn't do anything to deserve getting treated like that. You need to figure out what you want. If she's not ready to be real with you, then maybe it's time to stop letting her call the shots. I looked at him, almost like I had forgotten how to think for myself. But what if she's right? What if I've been blind to how bad things really are? Maybe she just needs space to figure things out. Mark shook his head. Bro, don't make excuses for her. If she wanted space, she should have told you before making plans with some other guy behind her back. She's already emotionally checked out. You're not the one she's thinking about right now. I didn't say anything at first. I just let his words sink in, the truth of them gnawing at my insides. He was right. I had been making excuses for her, trying to justify everything because I didn't want to face the reality. But here it was. This was happening. She was leaving. And it wasn't just about Max. It was about her not being able to even be honest with me anymore. I exhaled deeply, rubbing my temples as if I could push all the pain and confusion out of my mind. I don't know what to do anymore. I thought we had something good, you know? I thought we were building a future. You were, man. But she's the one who doesn't want it anymore. You can't keep holding on to something that's already slipping away. We sat in silence for a few minutes, and I thought about what he said. I was holding on to something that wasn't there anymore. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized maybe it was time to let go. It hurt. It hurt more than anything I had ever felt. But the more I sat with it, the clearer it became. I couldn't force her to love me. I couldn't make her come back. And I couldn't keep holding on to someone who had already walked away, even if it was just emotionally. It was time for me to focus on me. And that was the hardest thing I had ever had to admit.